You have to say 3, 2, 1.
So we are live, right?
We are live.
We're live. Welcome to the Ubuntu Touch Q&A, the UBports Foundation show, discussing the development of Ubuntu Touch and our community questions. This is episode 30. Wow, that we came a long way already. And this is broadcasted live on June 16th, 2018. My name is Florian. You might have heard about me. I'm stepping in for Dalton this week because he cannot join us right now. And with me are Marius.
Hello.
And Jan.
Hello.
So, here we are again. I hope a lot of people are already watching. We start as usual with a news section and then with questions from the community. And I can immediately cover the first item on my list, or our list. So my week was quite interesting because there is now a new potential Ubuntu Touch user in the community. And I can show you this picture. So maybe you can see.
Aww.
It's, well, this is Lucas. And I hope I can educate him in such a way that he will be not, let's say, sidestepping to some other operating systems on his mobile devices. He will be a pure Ubuntu Touch user. But let's see. Some years have to pass by until we can make final results about that. So we are super happy here. Everything went well. But of course, my week was a little bit up and upside down. I have no feeling for time anymore since last Friday when he was born. And I was a little bit sleepy and changing my moods. And so, but at the moment, I'm very excited and happy.
Congratulations.
So that was pretty much my week.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good.
Good. So how can we top this news, Jan?
Yeah. How can you?
So what have you been doing, Jan?
I have been shouting at Mr. Marius Gripscott for working too slow to resolve the 1604 backlog milestone. No, I think we have been pretty busy. And yeah, there's still some issues that need to be resolved before we can do a release candidate for the OTA4 for the 1604 release. But maybe you want to cover that a little more.
Sure. So the progress this week has been good, I would say. At least the end of the week, where stuff resolved. We had a lot of tricky issues, which many of them at first look didn't really make sense, and you have to really dig deep into, I would say, unknown area for me, because haven't touched all those areas, so it's kind of an exploration at the same time as debugging. Since these are more obscure packages which are not actively talked about, like Content Hub and those, even though you probably heard about it, you've probably never seen the code of it. So stuff like that has been going on, and we have fixed now most of the critical issues which blocks for an RC release. We only have one issue left now before we can release an RC, which is the camera on the tablets, the BQ tablets, and the Pro 5, which seems to have some startup errors. I just started debugging it 10 minutes before we started this, so I haven't come really far to that. So pretty much when that's fixed, and if not anything else critical appears, we will have a release pretty soon. The start of next week, or maybe even earlier. It really depends on how difficult the camera issue is, because
a release candidate, that is not a stable release yet, of course.
Release candidate.
So an update like this is very very difficult for us, because this affects so many packages that not many people from the community contribute to, and not many people from the community can contribute to. This is some really advanced stuff, and it also takes a lot of time to even find some of these bugs, because then you test it on one device and it works, and you test it on another and it doesn't, and it's a lot a lot more complex than just the regular stable releases we have been doing so far. And in fact, I think when this project started, to get a 16.04 release and to examine a potential 16.04 release without moving all packages, which we back then called Project Sudoku, which is essentially what we ended up doing. That was 10 months ago, so even before OTA 3. So an incredible amount of work has gone into this. On the milestone right now, there are 72 closed issues that were reported as regressions from Vivid, but of course there are so many more issues that had to be fixed and took time to fix that weren't even reported, that just a developer found and then fixed. So yeah, it's already been a lot of work.
Extreme a lot of work. It's in the beginning, of course, we say 10 months ago, but we haven't worked 100% for 10 months because we back then we had Vivid and we did like 10% on Xenial just to get it going, and we really started putting all our effort after Christmas, I think it was, when we released OTA 3.
Yeah.
But I think what also is here that Jan said we had touched many packages, but in fact we had touched every packages, which is not only by us, but the Xenial base itself has been touched by Canonical, which basically means I think has been touched, which is a lot of changes. And to get this tested, to get everything working, to get everything rebuilt, the bugs is one thing, but I think the pre-work before there is where the amount of power or where the amount of bring up came in. Of course, Canonical did a lot to get Xenial working, but it was in a terrible state back then.
Yeah, it was just the real beginning, and yeah, as you said, after OTA 3, so around Christmas, we said, okay, now we are all in with Xenial. We don't want to do another Vivid release. We want to have Xenial as soon as possible. But still, we had things that threw us off that we had to take care of that were a higher priority. And also, we did some experiments because you always need to have a perspective. Where can you go after that? So, for example, we did experiments with Nbox and so on. Of course, that all wasn't the highest priority, but we still needed to think about that at those points in time. So this is why it took so long. So at the moment, we're targeting for a stable release the end of June for Xenial, for 16.04, for OTA 4. We can't promise it, but at the moment it is looking okay. So as Mario said, we have one last critical issue we want to fix before having our first release candidate, so we can activate the normal testing cycle, quality assurance cycle, and work in a little more relaxed way. For example, a week ago we had an issue where we just broke all the devices, and that won't happen anymore then, so we can actually use 16.04 on your daily driver if you feel adventurous, with a little more certainty that an update won't break your device. So
yeah, an RC release will not break an update in how we are. So that's but also at the same time, it's really coming to an end now, where we see that we actually have an end to the tunnel. Because why it also has been taking so long is, as Jan said, a lot of things had come in the way, but also personal issues. Since we are a small team, when one go away, that really hits hard because you don't have someone else to step in right immediately, and that's of course is a bummer. But personal issues definitely go above anything else, especially when it family issues. Whatever. So this release was of course targeted before now, but as things go out with development, it's really, really hard to set an OTA. That's also why Jan says that we can't promise anything, because with development, you honestly don't know. It's like if we are lucky, we can fix all the bugs in 2 days, or if you're unlucky, we can fix them in 2 months. So it's the unpredictedness of working on a project like this. Also, one of the things we have to keep in mind is that we're also working on something that has never been done before, which is quite honestly what we are doing, because no one has built something like this, a Linux phone that's fully open source. Of course, you have Plasma Mobile, but they are not ready to ship. We are the only production-ready Linux phone, fully open source, that is.
And remembering open source, there's also a great thanks to Brian from Open Store, which is also having the word open inside, because there were some things going on with the apps in the last weeks, and then he created in almost no time the second channel for Xenial, so that we have now both things in the store. And there was also a lot of work on his side, because things were unpredicted. How we are going to move with the Click apps and the Click store that we have. So we are really happy and grateful for that support. Mm-hmm. And now we have only one small thing left with the apps, that is that sometimes the system settings would install the Vivid app into Xenial images. This is also something that more or less blocks the stable release, but we will figure out how this goes. But I think for our guys that want to go on RC testing, which is not as adventurous as Devel testing, as we see now, some even of our closer guys and testers from QA, they maybe broke their phone because they installed, for example, the unfortunate thing on the 1+1 that the partition size was too small, and now there's nothing on the phone actually. So please remember, Devel channel can break the device daily. RC shouldn't do that. So we are really happy that so many people installed even Devel channel for testing. But be careful if it's your daily driver. Still, we are almost close, but it could happen still in the last days that we again do something that we cannot test on all the devices, and suddenly it breaks. This is the reason why we have this channel separated. And we don't want to tell you that please install Devel. Just install it for fun and for playing and helping us testing. But don't be too much hurt if it's going to break your daily driver. I mean, it can.
Yeah.
When we say break, of course, it is possible to recover your device.
No, it's not going to break it. It's breaking the continuous operation of the device.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, it is really annoying if you are out and about and you see, oh, a new update is out, you install it, and then it breaks. But that will never happen on RC, on the release candidate channel. So as soon as the first release candidate is out, there will be a blog post on UBports.com telling you how to install it if you've never done it before, and also telling you what to look out for and what the current status is, and also call for testing essentially. This is something I promised last time, but didn't do because we didn't have the RC release yet. But that will definitely be coming this week, so we are very confident now.
And also, just adding that when they also say break, none of your data will be lost. You can just use the UBports installer, and if you don't hit wipe, of course, your device will be back with all your data and all your apps, and
exactly.
Okay, there are some questions from users also about Xenial. We can do this a little bit later if we like to rephrase that. Otherwise, we would step further on our list of items today. There was interesting news last week. Microsoft purchases GitHub, and there was a lot of discussion in Supergroup and other places, forum and so on, how UBports is going to react on that, if and how. So what do we think, Jan? What is the current response that we can give?
Yeah, this is obviously a very controversial topic for many open source developers. I mean, Microsoft, many people say Microsoft is evil, Microsoft is bad. You remember the Halloween papers where Microsoft said, I think 15 years ago or something, open source is what threatens us. We really need to focus on taking Linux down, and this is our main competitor. And other people say, well, that's not Microsoft today anymore. They have changed. They really embrace open source and they help us and so on. That's all fine. We don't really need to make it that much about ideology. What we should think about is moving to a different solution. For example, GitLab, which is the most prominent one. Will that help us or hurt us? And there's been a pretty interesting discussion in the community. If you go on the forums.ubports.com, I think it's still pretty high up in the list, and there will also be a link in the video description later, where many people voice their opinion on this, if UBports should move to a different solution or not. We will definitely not make a radical decision too quickly, and well, if we would have done that, we would have already done it. So definitely nothing will happen before OTA 4, because something like this would be a big change. But many of the people in the core team have also said, and in the community have said, that they find it concerning that such an important piece of the infrastructure like GitHub is controlled by one entity. So there are multiple opinions on this. We will definitely not make this decision without the community and not without a proper risk assessment, probably. So yeah, head over to the forums, read what other people have said, and if you have interesting input on that, feel free to share it.
Thanks, Jan. That was quite a good idea to motivate the people again to share their opinion about this, because I think community means also, in the first place, a lot of exchange of ideas and opinions and so on, because we don't want to exclude anyone from that, of course. And we are here for the users also somehow. It's not only just about what we think. And technically speaking, of course, GitLab is very close to GitHub functionality, of course.
A lot more also.
And they have even features that we could make use of, especially for structuring our projects a little bit better, that are not in the free GitHub. I don't know if it's in the paid GitHub plans.
Even in the open source parts, there are features that are not in GitHub. Especially in the issue tracking and project management part, there are many things that I would really like and that would really help the QA team to work more efficiently, and where we really say, okay, this is so amazing. I have no idea why GitHub doesn't have that. It's some of them which are really, really simple, and on GitHub you have weird workarounds to do stuff like that, but on GitLab it's just the click of a button. The biggest downside, in my opinion, is that GitLab has a lot less users, and of course this is why we are saying we need to ask the community if they want it, because if we make the move and then everybody just doesn't move with us, we have a big problem. Of course, other big projects have already moved, for example, GNOME and Debian, I think, as well.
Yep.
But they are bigger than us, so they have a lot more traction, and they can really tell their people, hey, come with us. And if only half of them come, then that's still a lot of people. But for us, it is a little more tricky.
And also with Debian and GNOME, they was using an agent technology before, so a move for them is a lot simpler, because they are stepping up from using a stick to a sword to kill someone. So it's extreme.
Yeah, we have a system that works and that is pretty integrated as well. But in our case as well, there are things like our GitHub organization also needs some polishing anyway. So we haven't set up proper permissions at the moment, and we haven't set up. There are some dead repositories. I think we have 300 repositories or something in the UBports organization, and 50 of them might just be not needed anymore. So that would also, we have to touch it anyway, so that might be an idea. But again, not announcing a decision here. It's still up for discussion. And of course, there are downsides to it as well. It takes time away from other things, so definitely not before OTA 4. And it might cost us some contributors. So yeah, head over to the forums if you have something to share with that.
Yeah.
Whoa, Marius?
Community.
Marius, are you
so the community.
Can you repeat that?
My internet?
Yes, your internet.
Probably.
Okay. So where was I before I left, or my internet
You
left?
died immediately.
Okay. I was just saying that the community is the most important part here. Is we can work as efficiently as we want, but without a community, we are nothing. So definitely the community is definitely the most valuable input. So please, if you have something strong against not using GitHub or not using GitLab, or if you jump ship with us, or would you not jump ship, please tell us anything that you feel.
I would just ask if, from my infrastructure point of view, because I'm more or less heading the infrastructure committee, and I got already questioned about why we don't self-host everything. I would just ask, before we have too much discussion about self-hosting, that is also something that will consume energy on our side, because we need a little bit more maintenance then. We need also more resources. They might cost some money. That will take away also possibilities that we would invest the money otherwise. Because self-hosting is not as trivial as just putting the box there. We need to make sure a proper backup. It must be a very reliable backup. We need to have availability. And we don't want to jump up in the middle of the night to reboot some services because everything went down or so. We have some self-hosted things where we think it's good and necessary, the build servers and so on. This is all self-hosted, let's say. But for the code base, that is our most valuable asset, let's say. Without the availability of the code, we are nothing. Like we cannot build. I would ask that we find some solution that we can partner up with a good service provider that takes away the burden of making daily backups and availability and switches over to another network if some network dies and so. So self-hosting is, of course, the option that has the most freedom, but also the most risk that we are getting into something that gets complicated for us.
But not only from the infrastructure side, you also have the part from search engines. You have to add them to search engines. You have to,
sure.
You are easily accessible if you are using a service. Login, for example, people have to create new accounts, and if they already have a GitLab account, they get everything in one place. So it's not only about the infrastructure; it's also the convenience. And there's a lot of factors going in here. Of course, self-hosting might be an option, but from me personally, I don't see the benefit of self-hosting than rather using GitLab.com when we are getting everything gold and everything for free because we are an open source project. So we get everything free anyway, whatever service we use.
Okay, I think that basically nails it for the moment. And we will come back to this topic quite sure at some point. Good, then we are on the project side. There are some other interesting activities that came out of the community. And here we can see that our community feeling starts to work. There is, first of all, a Raspberry Pi initiative. The idea here is that you can, or some people try to get Ubuntu Touch installed on a Raspberry Pi and do something like a developer board or an experimental board where you can, let's say, simulate a little bit of phone like the Purism guys do with their development boards for the upcoming phone. So the Raspberry would be a nice, I don't know, something like Internet of Things appliance or whatever. But if you attach some cheaper touch screen that you can have for the Raspberries, then you can really use it as a kind of communicator or phone or I don't know. Yeah. If you go to the forum, you can look now. We made a new category for this. On the main page of our forum, there is some topic that's called Other Projects, and there is a subtopic that is now UT for Raspberry Pi. If you're interested, if you're experienced with Raspberry Pis, please join those guys. They also have a GitHub page for that project already with a tracker, and they really want to go forward with this. It's no people of the core team. This is really something coming out of the community. This is very, very nice. Huh? And the similar second project is that there was a hackathon, or how to say, community get-together in Munich, right? And those guys, they wanted to focus on bringing Minecraft to Ubuntu Touch again, what means basically that Marius already brought it to Ubuntu Touch one day. But they really made a little bit more steps now. Also, if you go on the forum, you can participate on Minecraft. For the people who don't know what Minecraft is, this is the voice assistant or the voice assistance technology that would be an open source counterpart to Alexa and Hey Google and all the other things. You could also buy this as a Kickstarter project. This is a small device with some blinking LEDs and so. But it's also a standalone software that you can install on Ubuntu, for example, or on Linux, and also, of course, on Ubuntu Touch phone. So they are going to develop something out of this. We don't know where it's going, but it looks very ambitious. There is a click package already that you can install with some tweaks. If you just go to, and now I lost the track of my Minecraft link here. If you go to the search function in the forum, that's a good time to try the search function. Where the hell do we put this? Minecraft Voice Assistant demo app, exactly. That's the forum post, yeah, just follow the steps, and you can comment there what's your experience with that, and they eventually will put it to the open store, maybe also. So it's quite interesting. Yeah? We don't know actually what we can do with our phones, but the voice assistant would be at least cool to try. I will also try it, maybe. So if you have any other ideas for community projects, please come step up to us. We can promote it, we can feature it, we can shout it out. You can have a corner in the forum, of course. Yeah, that's the idea for the moment for community projects. We are really happy to hear or interested to hear what else we can do with our phones, despite making an OTF4. Because that's what we do all the time. And of course, for us, it's the core business, let's say. Yeah,
it's really cool to see how much develops around it in the community, and how much is enabled through this, and how many people are so enthusiastic to create stuff around it. That's just amazing. Actually, these guys really did a great job with the Minecraft demo project. I was supposed, or I was planning to go to the meetup where they started with this as well, but then had a spontaneous thing coming up why I wasn't able to go there. And I felt so bad afterwards that I completely fell quiet and didn't read up at all on what they did. But they really did a great job as far as I can see, and deserve a hand for that.
Good. So let's see. Maybe in upcoming after OTF4, we will have then the ideas for integrating one of these things as, I don't know, system API stuff, so that you can control some aspects of the phone with your voice, if people liked it. Of course, please give us some feedback also on this, because I'm not so much convinced with voice assistants. I don't find them so useful for the moment. It's maybe just a nice toy to have. But if there is some killer application with a voice assistant and Ubuntu Touch, then let us know. Yeah. We can. There are a lot of things that could be done with something like this. And of course, we don't listen all the time. This is the important thing. Our click doesn't listen all the time because he has no background activity possible at the moment.
This is also important, what Florian said there. And this is what we also would do differently, is that if it were to listen all the time, it will always be local. Like no one will be sent to Google like all the time, like a Google device does. It sends it to Google and feeds to the cloud. So I'm also on the side with Florian here. I don't find the voice assistant really useful. I find it more creepy in some sort, but that's me.
Okay, that's more or less our list of news for the last 2 weeks, and we would slide over to questions, if you like.
Sure.
Okay, there is a question from Donix, and I wrote every question from Donix by itself, but there are actually 3 questions from him. So hi Donix, thanks for your questions. The first one is a question how to keep up with the more and more Telegram communication channels, groups, and thousands of messages that are coming there, and how does it scale to communicate mostly in Telegram? Yeah. He thinks that it passed the volume for him that he cannot keep up with, and he finds himself always buried in hundreds of unread messages. Yeah.
Well, first of all, a big round of applause that he was able to keep up so far, because I gave up, I think, a year ago already, when so many people started coming in. We're just so okay. I'm doing nothing else than answering Telegram messages all day, so I stopped following the groups all the time and just swung by from time to time. I think what most people are doing now is for permanent communication, so for really in-depth discussion on one topic that doesn't have to be instantaneous. For example, the forum is used, or of course the GitHub issues. Of course, yeah, that is a problem, that you can't keep up with everything, but I don't think it is expected. Or is it? Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I think the question is here how synchronous or asynchronous we can even communicate with a worldwide or global community where there are a lot of people in different time zones. This creates, of course, natural issues. And then also splitting up things in too many subgroups, it's not that ideal. The supergroup for me is more or less a place for really general information that is not really persistent. So I wouldn't assume that this 1,591 people that are currently in the supergroup, that we are really able to track conversations over a long time there. Yeah? And also because there is something that compared to IRC, for example, I see Telegram on let's say regarding to that problem on the same level than IRC, because even if you store all the messages in your bot and you come home on the evening and then you start reading, if there are 1,600 people in an IRC channel, you have the same problem again. Yeah? Then the forum, of course, for me is sometimes easier to follow, sometimes not. But on the forum, I can, of course, quickly select which thread is interesting for me and which not. In the Telegram group, of course, I have to scroll through serial one by one for all the messages to find something that I'm interested in. Then I press on the reply button, then it skips 1,000 messages below maybe, and then I'm completely lost. So I can answer one topic, and then I have to scroll back up 300 messages to find where I stopped reading. Yeah. So it's clear for asynchronous communication, Telegram is not that well. But maybe it's also not that we assume that really critical communication is happening on Telegram. I wouldn't assume that this is the case. Yeah.
Or maybe one-on-one communication is, but not public announcements that everybody has to get. Or maybe they are on the channels, but on the news channel. But
and of course, a big thanks to Rodney, because he's one of our guys that is always there and always answering starter questions, philosophy questions. he's doing a great job. I couldn't answer that many questions that you're doing, Rodney, every day. And it seems to be nearly 24/7 for you. So I'm not sure where you get your sleep. Yeah? But he's right. He's writing now that it doesn't matter what communication method is used. If there are a lot of people involved, there are going to be a lot of unread messages. That's clear. And I assume, though it wasn't mentioned here, that is the same problem for the mailing lists. For some reason, the mailing lists never really kicked in that much. We started to provide a few. Still, people think that mailing lists are better than Telegram, but I'm not sure about that regarding this problem. Regarding other things, maybe a structure of a mailing list is a mixture between forum and Telegram communication, but I'm not really sure what I'm thinking about this. So how are we guys holding up with all this volume? What's our method? Actually, sometimes I have to just press on that button to go to the last message and say, okay, I skipped these 300, 400 messages. On some other days, I can keep up. For some days, the supergroup is okay. Sometimes it's totally full. For example, Halium, I stopped really reading Halium every message. I cannot keep up with Halium. There are so many developers, and sometimes they have 200 messages in 1 hour or maybe faster. It's what he's writing is, if I want to have an answer to a question or a problem, then I try to find this in 1 or 2 groups, or I write to some people that I know personally. But I think what it's really good for is that Telegram is our relation building channel, let's say, that we can get people interested and we can point them in various directions. We can say, okay, this is on the forum, this is covered maybe on GitHub, there is the tracker. It's not really something for deeper discussions. It's more or less the marketplace in the middle of the town where you go and you say, okay, I want to know this, who I can ask, and then you get a redirection. So just see it as a very busy, very crowded question and answer 24/7 thingy. I don't know how to describe it better. Yeah, that's my thought on Telegram. I mean, yeah, mute whatever you can mute because you couldn't stand all the notifications coming through.
If you have notifications enabled for all of them, you will probably just have a constant noise.
Yes.
I use Senial, so I don't get notifications.
Okay, I hope that answers a little bit this question. Then from Hummelbach, he's asking, are we bored with regressions? Focused, of course, on the 1604.
With regressions?
With regressions that are appearing between Vivid and Xenial, more or less.
Well, to answer that question, we've all never happy with regression. Regression is not fun to begin with. It's a step down. But I wouldn't say I'm more bored now, especially since every topic is different. So you get something to work with each time. So it's not more boring, but it's always more fun to make something new than fix something that's already fixed, but fix it again.
Or we are just crazy porting masochists like most. Would you actually prefer doing something else instead? Well, hard to say.
In this case, we don't really have a choice,
yes.
Right? So we need Xenial, we need to go to the new bases. So there's no way around it.
But also to say, in the broader context, I wouldn't do anything else. I wouldn't like to. We could stay on Vivid. That will fix our regression issue. But so in the big context, we want to do this. But if you want to go into specific regressions and everything, of course, there will be something that you don't enjoy doing. But regression is regression, and they are fun when you don't sit stuck for 2 days.
Good. So he's asking if anything in the community or the community could do anything for us. Well, hard to say. We flagged a few things on our GitHub tracker as, for example, good first issues, where we think that even this is something that it needs to be done. It's not necessarily that the core team needs to do it because it's an easy issue or an easier one. And we hope to find people that can fix these good first issue flagged things for us. That would be really something great, because then we don't have to do this and we can focus on the real difficult ones, where you need the inside knowledge of how all these layers communicate with each other. What is libhybris doing? What is the Mir on top of Wayland doing or not? And all this stuff I also don't understand so well. So There are some flags on the GitHub tracker where we can say, okay, we think that's safe for starters, for new developers that want to have a challenge. And they're also not time critical. So on these things, you can work for some time. We are not pushing anyone that this needs to be finished by the X or Y or I don't know. Just search for this flag, good first issue. And Jan is continuously flagging this and that to make it more attractive. And hopefully we find something. So yes, that's a good point where we can need some support or could.
Those are not regressions most of the time, though.
Yes,
so
no.
Those are small improvements that have big impact most of the time, or that are very visible. For example, the other day someone proposed to change in the dialer app that when you go to search your contacts, that the search bar is immediately highlighted, so the keyboard comes up immediately to make searching faster, essentially. So that's a pretty easy fix. So we made it help wanted. So if someone comes in and says, okay, I want to get started with QML, they can just commit or file a pull request for that.
Okay.
I will pick one at here.
Yes.
What about remove? This is from the YouTube chat, by the way. What about removal of Mir support in LightDM 128? This is no issue for us at all, since we are now moving, or the newer version of Mir supports something called lognd, which is a daemon that gives out permissions to use different hardware, like the keyboard and the screen and everything. And when Mir gets that support, we can use any display manager we want that support Wayland. We can just use those natively, so we don't need the direct Mir support that was in LightDM. The way that Mir did it was kind of weird. They started their own little Mir server inside LightDM and then run Mir on top of that, which you then run apps on top of that again. But we now have lognd support in newest version of Mir, so no, that won't be any problem. And also that version won't come to Xenial either, so it's no problem for Xenial. This is for desktop further in Bionic world.
Okay, we can stay with you, Marius, because Donix also wants to know if it's planned that there will be apps for Ubuntu Touch and the Purism phone shell. So maybe, let's say, universal apps like this.
This is still really unknown. In none of the apps framework there are finalized. Of course, you can get any of our apps working on that, since we are basically Qt with the Ubuntu toolkit on top of it. So of course our apps will work as they do on just build on top, or they can run on GTK or something like that. But the problem is GTK for us. GTK is not really implemented very well with Mir, so we had to upgrade to a newer version of Mir that support Wayland, and then we might get better GTK support. But both of those, both the Librem 5 and the next version of Mir on the phone, is still further away, even though we are thinking about it all the time. It's still an issue that is not highly critical, because the device isn't ready to ship until next year. So it's not critical to fix right now. But there is always thinking about it, and there is planned fixes, and there's always fixes in Mir that already handles Wayland and GTK.
Then he's also wanting to know if we move away from the Ubuntu Touch SDK to Qt Quick, which I must say I'm not sure about that. But of course, it's quite interesting, let's say, as an option to make it a little bit more generic, or how to say it.
Yeah.
And the Ubuntu SDK is just very special for us. I mean, this is something that only we will use in the future if we do it for apps.
Right. Yeah, I think what we want here is also take use of more standardized things, like Qt Quick Controls, for example. But also at the same time, we want to bring in our stuff to the DevTools world, to other mobile platforms, which is one of the things that we now have. Ubuntu Toolkit, for example, working really nice on Arch, which was done by Ivan. He also has progress working on Mir and the full Unity 8 stack on top of Arch, which is extremely cool, by the way. But what we want to do in the future is, as I said, depend more on upstream stuff, be more in line with what other desktop uses, also Qt desktop, that is. But also, if someone wants to use our toolkit, because there's many apps that use our toolkit, so we can't just axe it with a hammer, because a lot of people are using it. And for the matter of fact, it is a good toolkit. It's not bad. So if we can make it a lot easier to get it on other platforms, and remove some of the dependency where it depends.
And here we go.
On to touch stuff. Oh,
repeat after dependencies, please.
Yeah, I also remove a lot of these weird dependencies, which are really Ubuntu Touch specific, like Content Hub and Mir and Qt Mir and Qt Ubuntu. Remove those. I'm not sure if they depend on that, but at least Content Hub and some others. Remove those dependencies so we can easier just take Ubuntu Toolkit, take it on, build it on any system without needing to have the full Unity 8 or phone stack, which doesn't really make sense for a desktop user that uses Arch, for example, or Fedora.
Yeah, convergence goes in two directions, right? So we have to support all the standard stuff, and we have to try to use more standard stuff ourselves. So if someone is starting a new app now, and they want zero theming and they want it to look like a normal Ubuntu Touch app, perhaps using Qt Quick Controls is more the way to go. But Ubuntu UI Toolkit is not going away anytime soon, since everything we have is built with it. So we definitely cannot exit. And yeah, as Marius said, we are also working to make it easier. Also, we are bringing it into Debian, or we are working to bring it into Debian. And with that, also in normal Ubuntu, it will be easier again to use it.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to little bit look on the clock. So there's a short question for Jan, again from Donix. How's 1604 coming along? Maybe you can answer this in 3 words or 4.
1604 is coming along nicely.
Okay, perfect. Next question. No, because we talked already a little bit before, and there is another question for the OTA channels coming up, or for the RC channel. How will be the OTA RC channel be established for 1604? I think we basically talked about this already before. He's just wanted to confirm that when he's now on 1504 RC, that the 1604 will just roll over that. Without having to change channels or switch or do something else. Yeah.
No, if you are on 1504 RC now, you will stay there until OTA4 is out. At least that's what's planned at the moment. I don't think we have thought about it that much, but at the moment, the way we thought it would be is that we have the 3 channels that are part of the QA process, which is Devil, RC, and Stable for 1504, and then we set up the 3 channels a second time for 1604 as we go, and then as soon as OTA4 is supposed to be released, we just point all the channels of 1504, which is then officially, finally, end of life. We just point them over, so you won't get moved immediately, since the first RC will definitely still have regressions in it. So
and what is going to
you will have to refresh, but you can refresh without wiping. Sorry, go ahead.
No, so I think we have to give also some infos about that when it's time. And as we said in the beginning, we will announce what's going on with the RC when it's there, and how you really correctly and with least effort you can switch in a safe way if you want to go to RC. And then he wants to know what's going to happen when the backlog is empty. If there will be an RC, yes, of course, there will be an RC when the backlog is empty. What we said in the beginning, actually, it's only one blocker now for the RC. The backlog is not empty, but we have, as we said, these two levels for RC and for stable. And this one is blocking RC, and then there will be an RC channel, yes. But of course, we will continue to work on all the open things in both milestones, which is 1604 OTA4 milestone and the 1604 backlog milestone.
Some of the backlog milestones might stay there and might stay there until OTA 5, but those are non-critical issues that are really just funky and weird, and they don't really affect your daily use of the phone so much. So we really want to get this out as soon as possible, and we want to also start working on other things, like Hohenbach asked before, are you getting bored with this? We are getting bored with not being able to give you guys new stuff to look at and to work with, and it's been since Christmas now when our last release was. So I think this is really what we want to do. And a few regressions won't hurt if it's just small stuff that doesn't affect your daily use too much.
Okay, the next question is maybe an answer also to the previous one, how you should behave with our channel. So Tomo QV wants to know, for him there is only three things that is important why he cannot switch to 1604. Camera app regression, calendar is sometimes crashing, or right after launch actually is crashing, maybe, I don't know. And he wants to know if 1604 will happen for all supported devices simultaneously, or should we expect it device for device. But the question itself I labeled, what the heck, I switched my device to 1604, at least for the weekend. So thanks community, some people are 1604 devil channel users for the weekend only, and then during weekdays they switch back to stable. It's possible. Maybe not its recommended behavior, but it's a nice idea. So 1604 weekend driving, why not?
Well,
actually, interesting point. Sorry.
I just wanted to add to that. If you also don't want to switch back, you can just don't upgrade until the weekend. Then you know you will have a non-breaking system because you don't update, and then upgrade in the weekends, and then the cycle continues.
Yeah. I mean, in any case, you will need to use the installer to go over to 1604. But if you don't wipe, your data will definitely stay there. And if you, at the moment, since RC is not out yet, if you happen to get a devil image that doesn't boot, then you just install 1504 over it again, and Bob's your uncle. I mean, he's not. But
if
your uncle is named Bob, then Bob's your uncle. If not, then at least you have Vivid again.
Wise word from Jan right here.
Okay, sorry guys, I have to look a little bit on the time also, that we don't stress our users too much.
Can I just say one thing that we forgot in the news section? I'm sorry, I know we are a little time critical right now, but this is huge for me as a QA guy. So right now, up until now, we only had revision numbers, which were basically build numbers for all of the images. So if you were on the devil channel, then you saw maybe R300 something, because it was the 300th image that was built. Or on the OTAs, you had R1, R2 for the OTAs. But it started to get really difficult to keep track of those, because some new devices were added in OTA 2, and those started with R1. So what we now did is introduce a new tagging system that is consistent across all the devices. So if you look at this, I don't know if you can see it.
Yes, you're showing the serial number only. Move it up. Yes, now it's in the middle. Perfect.
Yeah. So now we have a system where it is consistent across all devices on the channel. So on the devil channel, which gets built every day, it is pretty much just the date On the RC channel, it is the year and the week number, and on the stable channel, it will just have the OTA number. So it's OTA for example, for the next release. This is going to make the QA process a lot easier. It's going to make talking about the images a lot easier, and that's something I'm really looking forward to. Sorry, let's get back to
really cool,
questions.
No, that's important also because now when we come to 16.04 and we make these improvements, that it's easier for us to debug and for the QA people to test if we have consistent image identification, let's say, or version identification. Sure. Coming over to the browser next, which also hit the community, and the reception was quite nice, I think, for everyone that tried. Tomo QV, I'm sorry for your name, I cannot spell it really. He wants to know, will there be further development on this Browser Next before OTA 5? Will it be possible to create web apps based on Browser Next? OTA 5, we don't even have a date for that.
Well, before OTA 5, definitely. The browser will probably have some improvements once we get a lot of the critical issues for OTA 4. We want to have the Browser Next to be a really good alternative without being a hassle. I think right now it's mostly UI issues which are not that hard to fix, like the scaling, for example, and the keyboard is popping up right and left and not having full screen. There's some issues like that we really like to fix before OTA 4 even, or even right after, since we can ship it through the open store. We don't have a time on it, so we can ship in whatever we make changes to it. But we really want to have it as close to the OTA 4 as possible, so we don't. Oh, it looks like the sun, but yeah, that's so bright. But yeah, that's really what we want to have a really solid alternative when you are switching, so you don't get stuck with crashes for your favorite news app, for example, which is a bummer because you need to read the news. So yeah, sums it up, we want to really make improvements so it's daily usable, at least not, of course, not 100% stable, but daily usable before or right after OTA 4.
This is also, of course, open for participation from the community,
oh, yeah.
Right? So I don't think it has someone working on it right now who really is taking ownership of it. So there's definitely room for participation.
Yep. Most of it is QML, and since we don't manage the browser, the Chromium browser anymore, you don't have to download 30 gigabytes just to get the source, which is pretty nice.
Further questions for the next browser, if it will support some features of progressive web apps, service workers, background processes, or JavaScript. Offline mode, install web app from the browser app, what native system notifications, and push. Well, this is a lot.
Not yet, but it's obviously all interesting features, especially since we depend on web apps so much. But at the moment, no, not yet.
What about Tor support? This is also something that people want to have sometimes now, get asking about Tor and how we are going to, if we are able to integrate it at some point. Yeah?
Well, it really depends if someone makes a Tor app. Really, I don't think this is something we will make officially because I don't think it fits inside the project. But if someone wants to build a Tor browser, there's no one stopping you.
Or even a system-wide tunnel like you have on Android with Ubuntu.
Yeah,
that certainly would be possible. I mean, you can do anything.
You have a full Linux system. You can even just download the Tor CLI and connect the whole network of your phone. You have a full Ubuntu system, so.
This is a good lead for the next question. I'm just cutting you off now, guys, because the full Ubuntu Touch, the full Linux system reminded user.divor about he wanted to, or he would suggest to make Ubuntu Touch more like Ubuntu. primarily using depps and not OTAs. Yeah? Maybe you should remove OTA and start to use depps, question mark. And there is also a big repo of ARM apps for PC. Do you plan to use it?
I think I can start with the OTA first and the depths.
Yes.
I think this is where we are distinguishing us from being a phone, because being a phone really means it's something you really depend on. It's something you extremely need to work. But at the same time, how the Android system is built, where you have this different device images, you have different partitions you need to flash. You don't have one partition. You have a boot partition, you have a recovery partition, you have modem partition, and all this makes it pretty much impossible to operate those components with deb. You can't upgrade the kernel with deb. There's no exception for it. You can't. You have to reboot the recovery because you have to have a not running system to be able to swap that kernel. And also, you can, of course, upgrade with deb. But the stability of a phone product, I don't see being deb. Of course, if you live on the edge, there's no one stopping you using deb. I use deb for most of my development. Because then you get the updates immediately and everything. You don't have to wait for another system update. But if you want to target more, if you want to use your phone more casually, you don't have to worry about running into conflicts, or you install a wrong package and you have to remove it, and all those issues that comes along with deb on PCs. And think about that. For the PC, Debian has been alive for a long time. Debian has been from the 90s and tested and tested and tested. And that hasn't happened for phone. And with your life, like for emergencies, which is also a really important thing you have to consider. We have to have phones for emergency, and et cetera, et cetera. And for that aspect, if we want a more stable product, the read-only system image-based upgrades makes a lot of sense. It doesn't need to be system image-based. It can be Snap, or it can be OS tree, whatever. But that it is read-only and it upgrades in image-based is a real benefit. But saying this, at the same time, we have talked about for a long time allowing the option to do deb upgrades with a flick of a button. If you want to use deb and you don't like the system image, we don't want to say no. We of course want to provide an option for you to do so. But keep in mind that the system image is a lot more, because everyone gets the same image. The image is the same across every device. The image is, when you have the OTA that we say, everyone has the same root file system, which means that you're pretty much guaranteed to have the same experience on the same device, that is. But yes, we want to build something that you can use that in the future. But time is in essence.
I think after OTA 4, at some point, we will have a pretty big discussion in the community about what are the next priorities. I know many people have been asking for development roadmap for quite a while now, but of course we need to know what the community wants us to spend a lot of time now. So I think we will have a pretty big discussion what the next big thing is going to be. Would it be Anbox? Would it be debs and custom? Would it be snaps? Would it be systemd? Would it be latest Mir and Unity 8? And of course, after OTA 4, we will have some more time to make assessments on how much work is what and how urgent is what are the constraints around it. And I think then we will have a pretty nice discussion in the community around it and see what do the people want.
Yeah, but at the same time, I was saying this is not a really high priority, at least, since there's many other aspects which needs care and love. But at the same time, since it's a community project, anyone can propose PRs and make changes for it. So as I said, you can install debs today. It is a deb-based system. That being said, you just need to make it read write, and you can do whatever you want with deb. It just doesn't have a user interface. But I don't think the people asking for deb want a user interface anyway. So.
Okay, we're a little bit over time. Just cutting off here, and for Todivo also, the second part of your question, maybe we can answer in 1 or 2 sentences. The problem with the ARM apps are that, as you said already in your question, they're not fitting to the small screens or the high density screens, but maybe it's enough to create good decorator and window manager. Well, basically, it's a community project, and the core team cannot handle everything. And I would say we are creating the hub or the communication infrastructure for people that want to do this and that and find each other. But please understand that we cannot go over all the apps, make all them compatible for the phone, and then just offer it to the community, just because it would be cool to have LibreOffice on your phone. This is really something that has to grow out on its own. And with some patience, we might see efforts, and we saw some efforts already, like with this Mycroft thing, for example, that came out of the community. So sorry, at the moment, I think we cannot do these things that we make more and more apps accessible on our side. We have to deal with the middleware, with the base layer, with the porting, and this is already a lot of things that we're doing. So we're creating the playground, but you have to use it then, and just dig your own sandcastle out of nothing. Yeah. How to say this in English?
I think this. Add extension to our sandcastle. Or
yes. Okay, that's good. We make a small sandcastle in the middle, and you can build your sandcastles around. Yeah, and by our jokes, you can already see that we are approaching nearly the end of the list. But I have one more question that I can answer maybe myself. If it's planned to make a print to PDF mechanism, it could be very useful for everyone. Yes, it's planned to make a print to PDF mechanism. It's already on my list, probably OTF5. OTF4, it's too short. It has some problems by using the CUPS backend. I talked about this already, I think, last Q&A or the one before even. So yes, print to PDF will in some form work, starting with printing only PDF documents. So it will not be able to make a screenshot and print it or print something from a web page. But over time, we will find maybe also ways for that. But the basic idea is now to get the CUPS backend working in such a way that you can configure your own printers and at least print PDF documents that you receive by, I don't know, Telegram, email, download it from a web page, and then via Content Hub you can print. Okay, that's the end of the list of the on-topic questions. Anything else?
I will just take a small one, which I saw in the Telegram now. It's someone saying that the Telegram is not working at the last update today. But I think one of the issues we have right now, which has some PR for it and is waiting for review and probably will be in the next image or next year after. On Xenial,
definitely be in the RC. So
yeah, it definitely will be in the RC. It's an update where the system settings click updater is updating. It doing a wrong update, so it actually updates to the Vivid version because of the API change. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's Telegram fault. It's probably because you upgraded with the system image and it installed the Vivid version. It is, as I said, is in progress, and it will probably be. It's already made the code, so it probably will be there today or tomorrow.
And to be sure,
Monday.
Yeah. To be sure, when it's in, I will bump the version number for Telegram so that everybody gets forced again on the right update. This is no problem, because I saw that this is something critical, and to bring the people back to life with Telegram, it's just making a empty release with just bumped version number. Maybe we do this for other apps also, but I think Telegram was now mostly affected because I released it now after this problem became obvious. There are not so many other apps that are now in Xenial and Vivid already. So we will try to take care for that.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, that was more or less the end. We have one more question left. It's off topic.
You're on overtime.
We're over time, so we're going to answer this one quickly. Marathon 2422 wants to know if you presenters can figure out your camera angles in a better way and not have bright lights or windows behind you, so we're not looking up to your nose.
Bright light, check. Seeing
Yes.
up the nose, check.
Okay.
No, I think.
Look at Jan. Look at Jan. This is the way to go.
Is this better? I don't know. I'm not sure.
I feel like the description that Flo said there is exactly seeing my, because I both have the bright light and the nose up.
And you have sometimes sun coming through your windows, because in Norway, it's of course the sun goes down very wide until late on the evening. It's still over the horizon.
It doesn't go down. It's still fully brightness out. It doesn't go down.
Yeah. Now even, yeah.
Yeah. But I think this is the program of this laptop. It has the camera down there. But sure, we can improve this. But I think it would be better to keep us working on Ubuntu Touch than buying cameras and all monitoring. It's not. This Q&A was not becoming something big, and I don't think we want it to become something big. Of course,
if you want us to buy a new camera, go to patreon.com. That's UBports.
Oh yeah, sure. But I think what my point is it's better to spend our time, energy, and money on the phones and do what we do well. This is mostly an informational. It's not. You shouldn't look at us anyway. You should listen to us. But yeah, we could improve.
There's also an audio-only version of the Q&A. So
if you completely hate our faces,
but actually, I don't see how people don't enjoy the Radiant Marios with the Holy Spirit in the background. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, of course we could improve, but I think this is going over time. It's not something we go our way out to buy the best camera or even buy a cheap. We don't even do that. I think we make this as simple as possible to be able to focus on the things that we love. We don't want the Q&A to be a hassle. We're also doing this on a Saturday, so it's.
Yeah.
We don't want to have a big production. Fly Jan in and Florian into Norway just to have the Q&A each.
Well,
big production area.
We build a studio in Mario's house with green screens and all this stuff, and then live tickers scrolling through, and the number of bugs and all these things, and like on the stock exchange. No,
we have the questions running out below.
Yes, and no, but it's clear this will be. We are amateurs with video and with audio quality, and we have sometimes dropouts, and sometimes something doesn't work. Forgive our dust, but I think the community really anticipates already that we're doing this just out of us without any major preparation. I mean, we're doing a list of questions. We're scanning the channels, what to talk about, and the news and so. But the preparation is not disturbing or distracting us from the other things we're doing. We don't want to prepare 1 week for a really perfect show. Like I don't know, I'm talking about now major companies. Even Canonical does better shows than us, of course. But they have a whole marketing team, and it's clear. On the other hand, this is just community feeling, and I think it's okay like this. So we will try to put our noses a little bit more down in the future. This we can offer. The Lightning, let's see, but Jan's Disco Light is a good alternative. We will consider that. Should be easy to install.
I have to say, Rodney is a pure genius. He gave me a tips to put books under. I did put books under. Problem solved.
Perfect.
And now you type like this.
Pain to type. But it works. Sure, of course we could improve. But yeah, keep in mind is
This better be good.
I lost all English. All English fell out. There's no more English left.
Okay.
We should do a Norwegian edition of the
Yes.
of the Q&A.
Okay, we are on overtime.
Viewer.
I've been learning Dutch, so we can do Dutch also. Auf Wiedersehen. Ich spreche Deutsch. Ich essen Spinder und Katze. No, I don't.
No.
Okay.
Now we're completely getting derailed, guys.
Okay.
I think it was a wonderful Q&A again.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks
Thank
the
you.
Patreons and the sponsors. Thanks the community for a lot of commitment and working with us and anticipating our work and praising our work and giving us motivation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next 2 weeks, probably Dalton will be back. Let's see what he's been up then. And wish everybody a great night. What is his usual saying at the end of the Q&A? This was the Q&A number 30.
This was Q&A number 30, and you have a wonderful day, the rest of your day and the rest of your week, and the rest of 2 weeks, actually. Yes. And we will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.